probably not what people would expect. I think most people would probably think like internet and kind of reliability is the hardest thing, but for me, those are pretty covered.
Welcome to the Modern Nomad Podcast. If you question your current reality and want to escape the 9-to-5 grind, then this is the show for you. And now your host, me. Welcome back to the Modern Nomad Podcast. My name is Kyle Kennedy, and in today's episode, we have a very special guest, someone who lives the nomadic lifestyle, but is also an engineer and works remotely. Currently, they are out in Alaska, and this is going to be a great episode. So if you know them, Engineers Who Vanlife, we are going to be speaking with Colby today. So what's up, Colby?
Hey, yeah. I am half of the Engineers Who Vanlife. My other half is Eric, and we are essentially full-time engineers who live on the road. I still work a job as a full-time software engineer, and Eric, who is currently out fishing, left his corporate 9 to 5, and now he actually does travel van building and DIY van building consultation. So he's kind of pivoted into the van space, and I am still working that full-time engineering job.
That's exciting. So with engineering, have you had any issues by living on the road, and how does that work for you?
Yeah, a couple. They're probably not what people would expect. I think most people would probably think like internet and kind of reliability is the hardest thing, but for me, those are pretty covered. For me, it's actually just been like career development has been really hard, and getting to know my coworkers and feeling like we're a team more so. I have to really, really put extra effort into developing like connections outside of my team because I work at a pretty large company, and then getting to know my team on like more of a personal and less of a working level because I like to have that relationship. I think that builds, a stronger team. So nothing like pure working wise is that hard for me. We built our van around my ergonomics, which sounds weird, but this is our second van we built for ourselves. So we knew that if I was going to keep my job, I needed to be comfortable in like 3 different spots because I rotate throughout the day. Like I'm standing and then I'm sitting and then I'm in like the passenger seat. So everything is built to like my ergonomic heights.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah.
So, is everybody in the engineering team that you're working with, are they all remote, or are some of them are in the office and you're just kind of like chiming in here and there on via internet, or what?
Yeah, so we work at a company that called people back on the 3-2 schedule, except for select engineering teams. And I don't know how they made that call, but my team was one of those who never got fully called back. There's 8 of us engineers. One of us goes to the office every day, like without fail. And then occasionally people will show up. So we've kind of talked about me going back because I'm craving like that connection for career development and things, but it wouldn't make a difference because I would still be on Zoom all day.
When you have this job, obviously this is something that has a location. Do you ever have to fly back or drive back to go into work every now and then, like once a year or something like that?
Not mandated. A couple weeks ago, so it's out of Portland, Oregon, and maybe 5 of us are, headquartered there, and the rest are in like Seattle and LA or something. And so a couple weeks ago, there was like an optional lunch, and people did fly there for that. So I would have, if I wasn't in Alaska, I probably would have flown. But it was just, for lunch, that felt like a really long trip. So it's never been a mandatory show up. It's like I'll look ahead and see if there's events or meetings that I want to be there in person, and we try. Again, like Alaska, you know, game over for trying to get to Oregon
Yeah,
for
exactly.
those.
Yeah, it takes a little while
But
to get there. So Eric,
yeah.
he was an engineer. So did he do kind of like the same thing you did, where he was doing like remote work and then just kind of found the passion for the van building and just moved on from there? Or how did that work?
Yeah, this is kind of an interesting story. He worked on lasers, and the industry he was in was, remember way back when, like you were deemed essential or non-essential?
I do.
Um, Yeah, he was deemed essential. So he, through the pandemic, never even worked one day from home. He was going in every day. and that was overlapped with our first van build. So we were headquartered out of Portland, Oregon in our van for about a year and a half. And we lived full time in the van, but we left Portland on the weekends. And there came a point where we had the chat of like, we're doing van life, but this isn't our dream van life. Like if we're going to be stuck in a city, let's get an apartment and have the comforts of living in a city. And so we made the tough call maybe 2 years in that we should just go for it. And that would require him like leaving that corporate in-person job. And so he left that job and his job was to build our van full time. And he was gonna go back to, we were gonna try to find a remote job for him once we started traveling. And then our blog and people started hiring him for consultations, and it just kind of became its own thing, and we're just riding with it.
That's exciting. Yeah. So is
Yeah.
that the van that you guys are currently in now, or was that the first one?
Let's see, the first one we were in was the one we were in Portland in, and
Okay.
now we are traveling full time in our second. And I think everyone says you need like three vans to get it perfect, but I feel like we nailed it on the second. Like we
There
really
you
love
go.
it.
How long were you in the first one?
Probably a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's enough time to realize that there are things that you want and things that you don't need and changes. So
Mm-hmm.
I have lived in mine for like 7 months full time. And within
Mm-hmm.
like a month, I knew exactly what I was going to do in the next one already. Like I don't think the three van rule is a legit thing, mainly because once you're in it, you understand very quickly that things need to
Mm-hmm.
change. With van life and engineering, it sounds like you have a really good rhythm. For Eric, since he is finished with the van, is he like working on vans or just now he's doing consultations helping people figure out how to build vans, do electrical, what does that look like?
Recently, it's been a lot of virtual consultations, a couple a week. However, when we're in like the lower 48, we we don't move for travel van builds, but people will reach out, and if they are generally on our route, he will do like a week or two working on someone's van build. We don't do full builds just because that would require us to be in one spot for longer than we want
I agree.
at the moment. But like we were in Colorado all winter, and he did probably a couple weeks on one there, and then we had like 3 or 4 gigs in California that were on our route, so took him up on those, and it's provided a really nice balance too for me because I don't when we're in one place for a while, I can kind of get settled and have a routine and like know where in it like where I can work from and coffee shops I can go to, and it's a really nice balance, but we don't do it all the time. It's like if it works, it works. If not, we're just doing our thing.
Yeah. No, I love that. The whole
Yeah.
idea and concept that he's doing is what I've been working into a lot lately. So like the consultations and building, but I've
Hmm.
been in San Diego for like 6 months because I came to hang out at a friend's shop. They put me on payroll and I'm working and building because like he's the only employee. So he kind of like hired me and I'm trying to figure out how at the end of this
Hmm.
year, we have too many projects right now. Like I committed to two ambulances and a box truck we have to finish by the end of the year.
Oh,
After that, I'm going fully like remote travel
yeah.
with building and consultations, but I still want to be able to come back here to San Diego and help him out. But no, it sounds
Hmm.
like Eric's living my dream life right now.
Hey, I think you'll figure it out. There's something about van life that things just work out because you have the freedom to like open up to more opportunities like that. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
No,
That's
I believe
awesome.
it.
Congrats.
It's a fun
Yeah.
journey. Like I've learned a lot while I've been here because like obviously my first van build started in this one, but it was like 2021 I bought it and then I built it out in 2022, lived in it now, and like I've built I think 6 rigs now in the past 7 months, which is insane.
Nice.
Like not full rigs, but like a couple full and then like a bunch of
Yeah.
partials. So I came here to
Cool.
learn, get the skills, and now I feel like confident enough that I can like go out there and like
Yeah.
actually do the things that I want to do. So I'm excited for that, and it sounds really cool that Eric's doing that. It's just such a cool. It's like a dream life, literally. Like you're just doing whatever
It
you
is.
want, wherever you want, and then when you want to pick up a job, you have one on the way. That's so cool.
Yeah. Yeah. We've really liked it. It's really created. like structure, but also like comfort for us, like we can both feel like we have a purpose on the road, because that's something that I think a lot of van lifers struggle with, is like when you're just kind of like floating around and traveling, like we at least seek purpose, and that
Hmm.
really gives it to us.
No, I fully agree. I'm somebody who came from a lot of structure and then moved into the van and then had
Mm-hmm.
no structure. So I really struggled with that. But
Mm-hmm.
in the freedom, there's great. There's like a good balance where you can just kind of like go off, go out in the mountains, do whatever you want, relax, recharge, but then come back in and then like work hard for like a couple weeks, go back out. Like that's the thing
Yeah.
that looks really good in van life, but people find
Yeah.
it difficult to actually find that balance.
Yeah. Yeah. We actually were just talking about this the other night. Like, I feel like there's two types of van lifers. We call them like the sabbatical van lifers, who are like, we're just going to do this for a year and we're just going to travel and see everything. But then there's people who are more utilitarian with it, where it's like, how can I make van life work for my life? How can I utilize not paying rent or being able to go anywhere to further my long-term goals? And that's what we've said from day one, is like, this is a means to what we want in the future.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I've never thought of it that way because I have friends that are on both sides of that,
Yep.
and you are
Yep.
absolutely correct. How did you
Yep.
guys get into like van life? Like what was the inspiration to get into? Like obviously you had jobs, you were just like, all right, I'm gonna buy a van and get the heck out of here, or what was that?
It took work, because so when I graduated college, I did the whole van life in New Zealand for as long as the visa allows thing. And then I moved to Australia and did it there. And so I did it all over, and I was obsessed with it. But I had signed my contract to start work, so I always knew I was coming back to a corporate job. And when I met Eric, I mean, I started talking about it really early, like kind of like red flag early on. Um, and he hard no for probably months. And then luckily, he met two people who were living in their vans and still had jobs, like were working on their careers, just had really cool stories. Like, I think they were his running friends he met. And he just came to me one day and was like, I think I get it. Like, it's not just, a vacation. Like, I see people doing this for their life. Like, I'm interested. And then, as a application engineer who like works with things and machines, and he was really excited by the build portion. So I knew if, he got through the build, that the van life would be fine. So it
Yeah.
was maybe about a year of chatting. And then of course, you probably know, we had to go through the whole, it was in the beginning of the pandemic where the supply chain was just painful.
Hmm.
So, we decided we were going to do it, and then it was a year before we even had our hands on a van, kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Yeah, that was really tough. And then once you get it, price of lumber is expensive.
Mm,
Everything that you wanted for the like build out was like 40% more expensive. So a van that used to
yep,
cost like 15,000 for a build out now cost 28, 35, something like that, which I ran into that problem as well. So you and
yep,
we were all building vans at the same time. That's kind of when I like
yep.
started following you guys because I saw that you
Oh,
guys were
cool.
building, it's a Ford Transit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so you guys were building that Transit. I was building my Mercedes. I was like, okay, cool. They're putting flare spaces in. I'm doing it too. I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
follow them. So, uh, yeah, no, we were in the same boat. Like this build out, like if I would have done it like a year earlier, would have cost like 10 grand less than it actually did. So I don't know if the price. I do know that the prices have come down, but they're nowhere pre-pandemic level right now. Like even vans are ridiculous.
No.
Like an empty
Yeah.
van may cost like $70,000 and it's not even new. It's like a
Yeah.
2018. It's insane. Like I got mine for $32,000 like a month before the price hikes. I got very lucky.
Whoa.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it
And
was it
I
was a very good thing to jump in at the time I did.
yeah, and I feel like the more van building products that come out, like specific like kits or like pop-up showers, like the more companies create van specific products, the more the prices go up and up, and it just becomes normalized. And I mean, it's becoming so popular too that there is somebody who will buy it for the
Oh, it
price.
is.
So
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was literally just talking to one of the guys at the shop yesterday. There's several companies around the US that like they're pumping out 300 vans a year, which that's nuts. Like I'm
What a
lucky to
day. Oh
build
my
like
God.
4 or 5 like full builds. They're doing
Yeah.
300 of them and these price tags are like $300,000. I'm like, who is buying these vans, let alone 300 of them? Is there that much of a market? Because it's not just that company. Like I've got a friend who
Yeah.
does 150 vans a year. I've got like a friend that builds all sorts of stuff and they're doing like 100 vans a year. And it doesn't make sense. Like, are there that many people that are either living in
Mm-hmm.
van life or is the RV life now turning into just vans? Like,
Mm.
are we one day going to see no more big RVs? Are we just going to see vans at like Camping World? What are we going to see?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, driving past those Camping World lots is crazy.
Yeah.
Like just
Can you?
seeing I mean, crazy. Like it's the same actually up here in Alaska, we thought we'd be super remote and be able to access all these places no one's at. And we'll go down sketchy roads and like there'll be a freaking RV there. And we're like, how the heck? We just bottomed out and like had one tire off the ground. Like, how is your RV here?
Yeah,
Like,
no, I think that every single time I go like into if you go deep into BLM land, you're like, there's no way RVs
mhm,
are out here, but there's like 30
there it
RVs
is.
being pulled by like a Toyota truck. I'm like, what is going on? How did they get back
That's
there?
insane. I wonder when the point is going to become where these become like factory made, like producing 300 a year is essentially an assembly line to me. To
Hmm.
do one a day, pretty like when is Ford or Mercedes gonna start just producing these on their
Well,
assembly line is what I wonder.
I think Ford and Mercedes are very close. Ford just unveiled
Hmm.
that Ford Transit Trail. Have you seen that?
Yep.
Yeah, so that's specifically designed for people who are going to build it out. So it's like that's
Hmm.
their start, in my opinion. But then you have Mercedes. Mercedes is already putting stuff out that's like closer and closer and closer to what you would want for an off-road vehicle. And I'm like, all right, this is a van. It can it go off-road? Yes. Is it meant for it? No. But they're trying to figure out how to make it that way. And so like I
Yeah.
think within the next like 4 or 5 years, like they're gonna kick Winnebago to the curb. There's no more Revels. It's legit gonna be like some random builder, like one of my friends owns 27 North. Like they're gonna be
Okay.
like, hey,
Yeah.
start building these. They're gonna start hitting the actual van builders to build them out because the Winnebagos and all those, they just look like crappy RVs. Like if you've gone to a
Mm.
van like expo, you'll like
Yeah.
walk to van. Every van looks exactly the same, but then you see the
Yep.
custom builder and people are like
Hmm.
flocking to that because it's different compared to, oh, this one's put together and it's just an RV in a tiny space. That's all it is. So they're going to
Yeah.
start hitting up those big time like shops that are actually pumping out good quality vans. I think that's within the next like 3 years, I bet.
That'd be pretty cool. Because I think what makes van life and van building so cool is the character that people put into it. It's so sterile when you see those
It is.
RVs and even like the ones that are popping out 300 a year, they're templates, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
they
it's
are.
like,
Well, that's the weird thing is like
yeah.
they claim to be custom, but what they do is they do like 5 or 6 floor plans and you can customize just like if you were
Mm,
getting a model home, you can get custom countertops or paint colors or ceiling
mm,
tiles. Like they're custom to an extent, but they're not
yeah.
trying to figure out a problem in a van. Like I'm sure you guys experienced this when I was building this. I have a bunch of video footage of me just like standing in a time lapse for probably 15 minutes staring at something trying to figure out how I'm going to do something. There's none of that when they're building 300 a year.
Oh my gosh, yes. I would say like 70% of the time of a van build is just dedicated to staring
Yeah, no, it
and
is.
just dang it. Or like undoing something because you realize
Hmm.
you did it wrong, or
Yep.
reading the manual, or it's
Yep.
insane.
I mean, we are in the same boat there. Even now, like I've built a lot and
Yeah.
I'm like, there'll be days when me and Dave, the guy that I work with, like he's a professional like carpenter, finished carpenter, and he just sit there and stare at the van and we're like, all right, I guess this is what we got to do. And then we just keep looking.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Even like now, I feel like that happens to us. Like something will be functioning weird or break and there we are on the side of the highway or in Home Depot's parking lot, like rebuilding something and just
Yep.
happens. Like we were just up um on some like glacier moraine and we had our first leak, and you have to troubleshoot it because it's raining for the next week.
Hmm.
So you're just, all right, let's go to Home Depot,
Yep.
buy a ladder, use it, return it.
Yep. I'm glad I'm not the only one that does that.
I think everyone recommends that first.
Oh, they
Like if
do.
you're not damaging it,
Hmm.
it's
Yep. I
renting.
mean, it never left the parking lot. We're fine.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the day they come out and they're like, but I saw you using this in the
Hmm.
parking lot. And we're
Yeah.
like, oh,
I
it
don't think
didn't
the
work right.
employees get paid enough to even care about that.
Yeah, that's true.
So before we move on too much, is there like a way, like does Eric have like a way for people to reach out to him if they wanted like consultations on the van build, since we kind of just talked about it? Like I don't want to move on too far and forget about it. So like does he have a website or
Yeah.
like social media? What's that?
Yeah, the best place is our blog, engineerswhovanlife.com, and there'll be like a consultations tab, and then we have a ton of free resources for DIYing your van build that you can leaf through as well to see if the answer is there before paying for anything. We have, I think every part of the build is covered there. That's pretty much where we put all our time is our blog.
Okay.
So
So
yeah.
you're the first like two people like that have a vlog basically that I've interviewed, and I know a lot of people, like if you look up like how to make money on the road while living van life, blog is one of the things that do come up. So do you guys actually make an income from that?
Yeah, we actually make enough to cover our travel expenses. So anything that either of us make on top of that is just savings to us. It is all affiliate based. So when we say like free resources, they're free to consume. But then if you were to purchase anything, like say you read our electrical guide and then bought your, components, by clicking through a link on there, we get a small portion of that. Like the price to the customer doesn't go up, but the company has to provide us a kickback as like a marketing fee.
Hmm.
So yeah, we have pretty much all our guides. There'll be a disclaimer like, hey, if you don't want to, you know, use an affiliate link, don't, but they're here.
Yeah,
And yeah, so we make enough to keep us traveling and
that's
save
good.
everything else, which is really nice. And as engineers, we have a lot of words and diagrams and thoughts we want to put out there. So it's just a
Hmm.
better space for us than Instagram or something.
Yeah. All right. So a blog there's a lot of work behind it. Basically, like if someone's wanting to get started, like this is essentially a business. Blogging can be a business for you. So like how often are you maintaining it? How often are you posting it? Did it take a while to like build it, basically?
Yeah, so we currently do one new post and like one updated post a week just for SEO reasons. That's our A goal. I would say we get an A maybe 90% of the time, um, which I think is good because, it's good to have fresh content. And then it took me maybe to build it. I think most people could build a blog in a week. I of course want to like code it myself and do more than I really probably should have. So it took me about a month to build it. And then of course I'm always like retinkering if I don't like something or changing the colors or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's to me it's I would probably spend an hour a day on it, but it's work that I personally really enjoy. And I think if anyone enjoys writing or sharing their thoughts, it's a really fun way to do it. And it's really an even playing field going in compared to like Instagram, where you need to have followers and you either get lucky or you don't sometimes with getting
Mhm.
followers. So I think it's a even playing field to enter, especially if you like writing.
Definitely, yeah. The blogging is something that I started. I did like a few posts and then I like forgot about it, mainly because it was like it's a lot of work, in my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. Like I personally don't like sitting still for very
Mm-hmm.
long. So when I'm staring at a computer and typing and like coming up with things to like talk about,
Yeah.
I'm like, I wouldn't say I have ADHD, but that's a moment where I'm like, I'm gone. I'm like, I'm gonna go outside. I'm gonna go sit on the beach. Maybe I should take the computer to the beach and just type out there.
Eric and I always talk about we're so happy we did the blog and we've built our like platforms the way we have because we've been able to take our personal lives out of it. Like we really don't think people care what we're doing or how our relationship is or like what's going on with us. They really just want our information. And I think that's one of the reasons we've been able to stay consistent for 2 or 3 years is because it's just information and we both have lots of information we want to share. Like people aren't asking about us.
Mhm. That's rare, honestly, because like
hmm
usually in social media, like you guys have a decent following, so like people probably want to know more about you, but they
hmm
are getting the info and they are
hmm
following you for tips, tricks, stuff like that. And that's a
hmm
very hard thing to get. Like for me, I'm doing both. And like I have people that are like, "Where have you
hmm
been? Like we've been wondering, like, what are you doing? What are you up to?" And I'm like, "Well, I just want to post like the cool shit that I'm building." So
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know, but I do have a Patreon for the people that actually want to like
Mm.
invest more in me and like learn more about me. I post my
hmm
personal life over there and like have a private story on Instagram where people can actually like get more in depth about me rather than just like what I'm building or like where I'm at with like traveling. So that's a really cool thing. Like you don't have to be
Yeah.
putting your personal life out there. You can be putting out information, and I like that a lot. So the uh
hmm
the next thing I want to kind of like talk about is everybody has horror stories on the road or like in the van build process. Like, is there anything that like during your
Mm.
van build was just like an absolute nightmare, or possibly you have like some sketchy stories on the road where someone was trying to chase you or something like that? Do you have any horror stories about them?
Oh my goodness. The fact that I have to think is probably good.
That is a good sign.
I mean, the true horror story was during building. Um, Eric was it was a late night. He was doing a lot of late nights on the second build, and he was using the drill press to drill a hole in a copper, or make the hole in the copper lug bigger. Um,
Which is always
and
sketchy.
and I think he didn't clamp it hard enough, and all of a sudden he ran up to the house. We were building out of his parents' workshop, which was really nice. And he ran in the front door and he was like, "Dad, can you come look at my electrical system?" And I was like, "Hold up, red flag. You're the one who knows the electrical system, not your dad." So of course I go running and he goes out the front door and runs to like the garage door and his dad's there too. And I just see a trail of blood. And I'm like,
Oh
"Oh my
no.
God. Oh my God, what is this gonna be? What is this gonna be?" And then like I see him and he's like holding his thumb and
So it wasn't
I
about
mean,
the electrical system.
oh no. I guess no. His thumb is, I mean, ripped to shreds, like
Mm-mm.
chunks. It was horrible. What had happened was um it it wasn't clamped hard enough, so it like torqued and
Mm-hmm.
pulled his thumb with it. So his thumb went into the drill press and it was nasty. And of course, like his dad is a surgeon, so he just, stitched it up there in the living room and it looks good as new now, but that was really scary and stopped us from using power tools past 9 p.m. at one point.
Was there was I always like to have a good beer in the evening time if I'm building. So was there any beer involved or
Oh,
anything like that?
I, I don't know. I think it was just a late night thing. I mean,
Oh, funny.
yeah, he usually has like a beer with dinner, but I don't remember that night. It was just a pure like we're so close to finishing
Yeah.
and it's late and I'm just gonna drill this lug and we're gonna finish our electrical system. It
I
was
mean, it
it was
works.
so
It,
I
it
mean,
it got the job done, but it sacrificed a finger. How did he? Does the finger like look good now? His dad's a surgeon. He fixed it up.
yeah. It he
Good.
didn't even lose like a flap had come off and I was like, "Oh, he's for sure gonna lose the flap." And the
Oh
flap
no,
even never died. Like it's just there and you can see like where the stitches. Oh, actually, he might not even have stitched it. He might have just wrapped it up. Yeah, it looks fine. He took
that's
one
good.
day off the build. One day.
One day. Goodness, I would have taken at least two. I would have milked
Yeah.
it for all it's worth and be like, "Oh, my finger hurts. I'm
Yeah.
gonna I'm gonna rest today."
Yeah, I feel that. Yeah.
Oh,
And
so on
then
the other side
and
of the spectrum, like this is there's a lot of blessings involved with van life because you're living differently, you're
mhm,
doing a bunch of different things that like just are amazing. Like what's the biggest blessing that
mhm.
you guys have found in the van life space?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think for us, it's been the beauty in, I mean, the small things have really been highlighted to us. Just, I mean, being able to meet different people every day and talk to people from all different places and walks of life. And van life really throws you into just that, like basic connecting and basic communities and varying it that much. We've met some amazing people. We hate that we meet amazing people and then we just leave and never see them again. Like
Yes.
that's something we struggle with, but being able to sit around a campfire with a bunch of strangers and you already have that immediate connection that you're doing van life, so it's a better starting point. And then um I think it's been really interesting to have to work for your basic necessities like water and power and heat and just you have to work for everything,
Hmm.
and that creates a really interesting mindset that makes you thankful for pretty much everything because nothing is guaranteed. Like you don't even know where you're sleeping tonight, surprise. Like
Hmm.
having to work for everything at this stage in our lives is really cool, I think.
I agree with that. Like everything that you just said, absolutely agree with it. The meeting of new people, like I have met the absolute coolest people I've ever like
Mm-hmm.
even I can't even like describe it honestly because like the people that like I hung out with for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row and like traveled with them for a little while, like those are the people that like have in my life been the most difficult to leave at the end. Like when we part ways, I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I barely
Yeah,
know this person, but like it is
I
so difficult
know.
to leave them because like we bonded, we connected on different levels
Yeah.
because like our
Mm-hmm.
minds work so much differently than everybody else's and that we're so connected in just one simple way that like it's very strange. And then like working for all of the things that you have to
Mm-hmm.
do, like water and all that stuff. If you're in the city, like where I am, I have it down to a system now. Like I've been in San Diego for long enough.
Yeah.
But I miss the chaotic, like, oh, I need water. Where's a water spigot?
Yeah.
I don't know where to sleep. There's signs here. I have to like drive down and see if there's no parking sign or there's street sweeping here. Like those are actually fun moments. People like in I don't know if you guys are on Facebook, like van life forums and stuff like that. Everybody asks questions about like where do I sleep? Like, is this
Mm-hmm.
okay? Is that okay? And I'm like, that's the fun stuff. Don't ask people. Just go out there and figure it out for
Yes.
yourself. Like I've never once gotten the knock on wood, but like police literally out like in most areas, if they do knock, they're just like, hey, you can't sleep here. Like people are so nervous and afraid to
Mm-hmm.
do it that it like paralyzes them into
Mm-hmm.
even like doing the van
Yeah.
life. So like they're like, I'm just gonna sleep in a camp spot. So you are not gonna pay rent, but you're
Yeah.
gonna pay $40 a night because you're scared of
Oof.
a cop knocking on your door.
Yeah. I feel like that's how you make it or break it too. Like if you're not comfortable being able to figure these things out, you're not going to make it a long time. That's just
Definitely not.
the core of van life is you need to figure things out, period. And
Mm-hmm.
you also need to take risks. You need to take calculated risks of, where to sleep and where
Definitely.
not to sleep. And my one of my biggest things I don't recommend to van lifers is using like iOverlander in cities. I think
Nope.
that's I think it's great for BLM land, but if a van is showing up to the same spot, like street or in front of a house every night, like that's when we're going to start to get knocks. So just being able to use your common sense and instincts to like just find a spot in a city that's, mellow is the better way
Yeah.
to go in cities.
No, I literally made a video about this the other day on YouTube. I think it
Oh, really?
was last week, last Tuesday. We were talking about iOverlander, and I was like, people use this wrong because most of them are city camping for the most part. they look on there, they try to find a spot that like other people have like stayed at and you
Mhm.
like are comfortable there, but then it'll be like, oh, this one's permanently closed, but people are still there.
Mhm.
And the reason it gets permanently closed or like you're getting the knocks is because like on iOverlander, you are legit sleeping in the same spot over and over again. It's usually a
Mhm.
neighborhood, so people will catch on to it
Mhm.
and then
Yeah.
call the police. So I was like, the real reason you should be using this is just to get an idea as to where people have stayed and then disperse and find areas that are close
Yes.
by that are
Perfect.
not that spot. And I always tell everybody that just like in the forums because they're like, well, does this look like a good spot? And I'm like, don't use it. Like BLM, it's great for finding the BLM land for camp spots. But
Yep.
like if you're in the city and you're going to be staying somewhere, do not use that ever for the exact location because that is how
Mhm.
everyone literally
Yeah.
ruins a spot. It's just
Yes.
overpopulation for it.
Yeah.
Because if you're doing that, everyone else is
Perfect.
doing that as well.
Yeah. And some people aren't very nice or clean
Oh gosh,
or
no.
respectful.
Yeah. Have you guys have been in San Diego, right?
Mhm.
Did you guys like happen to go
Actually,
over
we
to like
haven't been in
Dog
the
Beach?
van.
Oh, you haven't? Okay. So like, Ocean
No.
Beach where Dog Beach is? Have you been
Yeah.
there? So that's like the number
Yeah.
one like van life meetup is that I feel like in that little parking
Oh,
lot of that beach. But like at nighttime, everyone just kind of goes out and does their own thing. And there are people in the neighborhood that think it's so much of a problem that they will go around and they'll put little notes on people's windows and they'll
oh
like
my
tell them to get out of there, even so much so that people get their like tires slashed. Like van lifers are
God.
getting tires slashed. Like this hasn't happened in a while, but there's horror stories of that.
Dang.
Just people hated them so much that they were just going to start slashing tires throughout the neighborhood. Like that's one way
Oh
to get
my
them to not
gosh.
leave because they probably can't afford the tires. A lot of them can.
Oh, that's actually really true. Oh
Yeah.
no. Dang it. Yeah. It's getting harder. It's getting harder.
It is, it is. So, let's talk about like kind of what you guys are up to now. You guys are in Alaska. Eric's fishing,
Mhm.
and
Yes.
like, what brought you all to Alaska? Just like a cool spot to go?
Alaska brought us to Alaska. It's been our bucket list for, um, I mean, probably since we were kids. We both wanted to come here and just experience. You just, you see pictures and you hear stories of
Mm-hmm.
like just how grand everything is and how different it is. And we're like, we want to experience it. So yeah, we drove up about a month ago, huge trek through Canada, and we've just been slowing down and meeting people and trying to get off grid as much as possible. And it is truly amazing. Like if it wasn't so far from family and friends, I don't think we would be leaving. It just feels so right for both of us. We love it.
Yeah. Yep. That's the hard part is when you have family and friends back home that you actually want to see, but you're halfway across the world trying to live your own life. It's like a touchy subject. When I told my parents I was like going to go out and travel,
Yeah.
not sure how long I'm going to be gone, my parents did not understand it. My sister was like, "You're homeless, blah 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 blah," and I'm like, "Nah, I'm not." I'm like, I'm
Oh
living
my
differently than
God.
everybody else is. You don't understand that, and it's very difficult to like leave them
Yeah.
behind. Like I try to go back at least every like 3 or 4 months. I
Hmm.
flew out last time, and I'm never driving back that far.
Yeah.
Such a long drive. So you're both from Oregon, right? Can you hear me?
Yeah. That's a drive. Yep. Can you hear me? You're
Yeah, I
freezing
can
a
hear
little
you. Hold
bit,
on.
but I
Yeah,
think I can hear you.
we're getting a little bit of a delay. Everything's just like shutting down. I think it's because everything's getting hot right now.
Oh, shoot. Yeah, you did say it
Yeah.
was hot there.
Yeah, my camera is probably getting hot, the laptop's getting hot. But
Oh,
if you can hear me right now, right?
yep.
Okay, cool. We'll try and bring it to a close. Let me
Okay.
look at there's one question at the very end that I always like to ask.
Okay.
So there's two questions. We'll do um so van life, obviously, not always sunshine and rainbows. We always talked about like, or we already talked about how you actually enjoy the process of like almost roughing it, going to find water and do all that. You enjoy that, but like some people wouldn't. What's like the most difficult part of van life that you've kind of found?
I have two, and they're very equal in my mind. And the first is lack of stable community. like we talked about, I absolutely love the people we meet on the road, but it just like tears me apart every time we have to leave them, just like we said. And I miss like having that core group that I know I can go hang out with one night. And it's really hard to be 24/7 with, someone in a van. Like it's not how we were meant to be. We're meant to be with people and different people. So we're trying to find that by moving slower and go to run groups and try to create community where we go. And then the
Mm-hmm.
other one is lack of routine. I I need a routine to be successful, especially when I have 8 hours a day that I'm working. And it's really hard to do that when you might need to be driving somewhere, or you might need to be finding water, or you get a knock right before work starts. Like it's really hard to create a
Mm-hmm.
routine. So those are the two things that we're working on.
Those are good ones. Yeah. No, I fully agree with it. But yeah, so if anyone wanted to get into van life, what would
Mm,
you tell them? Like what would be your advice just to like get them to take that next step? Like that's the hardest part is that first step.
hmm I would say that, small steps are still steps forward. So if that for you is buying like an already built out van, do that. If that feels overwhelming, like just being able to take the van build out of it and getting into van life and then maybe seeing what works and what doesn't and then building your own, you could do that. Or you could rent a van. Like there's a lot of ways to take small steps without completely diving into a full van build and van life. So just figure out, where you're most comfortable and lean in that direction.
I love that. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and close there. I think this has been a great opportunity to talk to someone who's not in the normal like content creation space. You have a full-time job. Eric has a full-time job. You guys are crushing it out there, and I think everyone needs to know that this is a possible lifestyle if you want to actually do this and have a remote job. So that is pretty much it. And I
Yeah.
appreciate you, Colby, for showing up today. It took like a week for us to actually make this happen, but it worked. We did it. And I would love to have both of you guys on. So next time you guys have
Yeah,
some free time, I'd love to have you and Eric. That would be great. We can talk a little
totally.
bit more about a little bit of everything.
Yeah. That sounds great. Yeah,
Awesome.
we'd love to. Thanks for having me.
Of course. Yeah. Well, thank you guys. We will see you all in the next video.